Hi, my name is Tom Chapin, and welcome to ICTV's Just Outdoors. This is a program to bring you the bare facts about the woods, the waters, and the wildlife of Itasca County. Well, today we're going to concentrate on the woods because we have a plant in Itasca County that is so invasive that it's taking over pretty much all the vegetative areas around Grand Rapids or within the city of Grand Rapids. And unless we stop this invasive species, we're going to have some problems in the future. And we're going to show you why this is here, and we're going to show you hopefully how to relieve the land of this plant. It's a real problem. It's called buckthorn, and we have a guest with us, Josh Donatel, who is a buckthorn expert. And Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate it. So we're going to try to show you everything about buckthorn that you need to know. A lot of you aren't aware of what buckthorn is. We're going to show you the actual plant and the whole thing. So, Josh, tell us a little about yourself and who you work for.
So my name is Josh Donatel, as Tom mentioned. I'm from Hudson, Wisconsin originally. I've been working for DNR Forestry now for 15 years. Recently here, and 5 years ago, I moved down to Grand Rapids and I've been running the private lands program. So my job is basically to work with private landowners who need to get some advice, get some education on what to do with their woods. Invasives is something that has been coming up more and more here in Itasca County, in between buckthorn, honeysuckle, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, buckthorn is a big deal though, isn't it?
Correct.
All over Minnesota, really.
Yep.
And specifically Minnesota, in the country, it's a huge deal.
Yep.
And so we're gonna try to show you what we're gonna do before we go. We're gonna pull a plant here just to show you. It's not hard to find a plant here before we move up the hill here. So, Josh, Ron and I just grab one here. There's one right there. Here, I'll take a little bit bigger one. See, these are all buckthorn here, and you're gonna see buckthorn until you're gonna get sick of buckthorn on this show because it's all over here. I was given an estimate just in this area here, this probably an acre and a half, there's probably about 100,000 plants in here. And we got some trees here that are up to 30 to 35 feet high they get. And we're going to show you some of that too. But let me show you how, one way you can eliminate it, right Josh, is pulling it.
Probably the easiest way as long as it's not huge, you know.
Not huge. But let's show you what's at the other end of this. So here's a plant. This is about the size of the plant you want to pull, nothing bigger, and you can just pull it out, and here's what you get. And a lot of dirt. So Josh, what are we looking at there?
Yeah, you're basically just looking at a younger seedling of buckthorn. As you can see on Tom's property here, he has a ton of this smaller stuff. The best option, you know, for a landowner to get rid of this is just hand pulling. When they're this size, if they get bigger, you know, we're going to be looking at a couple different options as far as cutting the main stem off, using a chemical to treat it, or in this case, what we're going to do today is just put a black bag over it, which is going to cut the sun off from the root and stop it from growing. Just a little bit of history on buckthorn. You know, it was sold at nurseries through, you know, 1950, 1960, maybe even a little later, and it was sold as a hedgerow. And so it was used in landscaping and houses and that kind of thing. Produces berries. We'll see a berry producer today. This is young enough where it isn't producing berries, but how it spreads is the berry has a laxative type chemical in it. The birds just gorge on the berry and then spread the seeds from there.
Okay, tell us, since we're on this subject, the detrimental effects of this plant.
So for me, where I grew up in Hudson, Wisconsin, we had buckthorn much earlier, it seemed, than they had it up here. And down there, a lot of oak forest. Oak is a sun-loving species, and what buckthorn does is it's shade tolerant. So this thing will grow in the understory of a fully stocked forest. And as those trees above them start to die off due to natural mortality, blowdown events, that kind of thing, those trees are then in full sun. And that is going to allow them to take over and really be the next forest that's going to be on that site. So that's the biggest thing for me as a forester to let folks know, is it's really stopping just the natural succession of forest over time up here.
Yeah, and it does have effect on other wildlife too, doesn't it?
Correct.
I mean, and bird nesting?
Yep.
Things like that.
Yep, it alters the habitat across the landscape.
And so this area here we're going to be looking at, if we just let it go, and we're going to see signs in this area of what it's done already here, aren't we?
Yep.
The trees are mature, they're dropping over, and they will never come back because of this.
Correct. It shuts off all sunlight, so especially shade or sun-loving trees, they are no longer going to be part of that future forest. A lot of our sun-loving trees here in Itasca County are, aspen, red pine, jack pine. All those need full sun to regenerate and grow well, and this plant really stops that from happening.
Yeah. So what you could look at is, you see a lot of big, huge trees here. Those are eventually going to die off, like all trees do. And this could become a buckthorn desert, couldn't it? I mean, just all buckthorn.
Yes.
Correct. And no trees at all can grow here.
Correct.
And this isn't the only place, folks, in Grand Rapids. It's all over. We're up on the northeast side of Grand Rapids by the fairgrounds. And it's all over, and even the fairgrounds, I understand, has some problems over on the north end of it there.
Yep, and I've seen it all the way over to Deer River, and then all the way up to North Home as well. So.
Yeah, and south toward Pokegama Lake also, in that area.
Yep.
Okay, so one more, we'll just pull one more here just to show you. It's not that hard to pull these out. If you've got just a few plants, you can pull it out with one hand here. There's a couple of them right there. And if you really want to get rid of them in a small area on your lot, this is the way to do it.
Yep.
It's not hard to pull 500 plants. I mean, you can see you could do a lot in an hour here.
Yep.
And then, Josh, what do you want to do with these?
I would just dispose of them on site. The fear is that you're going to bring them somewhere that isn't infested, especially the berry producers. You do not want to allow them to leave the site.
We'll show a lot of berries here on these trees. Can you believe these will get to 30 to 35 feet tall? And we'll show you some here. And that'll give you an idea of when this plant, if we take a look at it and cut it and count the rings, how long these plants have been in this area. I don't know. I can't guess on what they. Do you have any guess on?
I don't have a great guess.
We just don't know. It could be 30 years or 50 years, right? Some of those trees. Okay, so there you go. Can you burn these?
You certainly could. I think
not going to be a problem.
No.
As far as spread or anything like that.
I think one other thing worth mentioning, if folks don't know what buckthorn is or have never seen it, this is the time of year to get out in the woods and look for it. So buckthorn, you can see here,
show them,
holds its leaves well into November, sometimes even into the winter. So if you're unaware of what buckthorn looks like, now is the time to go out and look for it. All the other native tree species, shrub species have lost their leaves, so everything else is basically leafless. So if you can go out and walk around your woods right now and check out, look for any green leaves that look similar to this, and that would mean you more than likely have some buckthorn on your property.
No, the thorn is actually a branch, right?
Correct, yeah.
When they say thorn, you can point one out there.
Yep.
It's sharp, but it isn't like a
true
hawthorn.
Yes.
It's not a true thorn. It's just part of it, but they call it buckthorn. It is nasty, though.
Yes.
If you start walking through, you're going to get these on you, and you'll feel them.
Yep. Yeah, wear gloves, wear eye protection.
Yep.
I got poked really bad by a twig one time, got infected, so they certainly can do some damage.
Well, you wouldn't know.
Yep.
All right. Now we're gonna start walking through the woods. We're gonna go up this area here, up a hill, and we're gonna show you an infestation of buckthorn about this size, as far as you can see. Then we're gonna start getting into the bigger trees as we go down the hill. So that's where we're heading right now. All right, now we're about halfway up the hill and not quite into the woods yet, where we're going to be going and then winding up at the other end, and we might even go into our neighbor's yard, who has some huge trees over there. So Josh, we're at an area where the trees are ranging from 1.5 inches in diameter to some up to 6 inches in diameter already, and one of them is probably 30 feet high, and some of them are wrapping around some of the local trees here like a poplar. Tell us the detrimental effects that all these plants have on the normal, natural growing species of trees in the area.
So like you said, they're competing with the native species that we have on site here. Growing in and around, basically they're finding openings where they can pull sun out from that tree and get in front of it. So I think that's a detrimental part of that. And then the other thing is that they're capturing nutrients that be going to native shrubs on the forest floor. But the big thing from the first site is you still see all the young stuff here, but like you mentioned, we're starting to see more mature plants. So this is the actual berry of the buckthorn. The real issue with the berry producers is that the seeds will stay viable for up to 5 years on the forest floor. So even when you've taken the time and effort to clean buckthorn out of your property, there's still going to be resprouting up to 5 years after. So that's the main thing to take home, is that even though you do initial treatment on buckthorn, there's going to be some follow-up pulling as far as those young seedlings that pop up.
Yeah, no. Can we actually locate the trunk of that larger tree there? Oh my gosh! See,
So
that
one of the
one there,
bigger buckthorn I've seen.
It's
around
some of the
here in
biggest
Itasca
buckthorn
County.
he's ever seen around here,
Yep.
or anywhere, really.
Yep. The other thing you're seeing here on Tom's property is that these trees are over mature, right? So we're seeing older trees that are starting to succumb to mortality, natural mortality, and some wind damage. And these trees are really going to be what's available here for the next forest.
Yeah, and you notice underneath these trees, these buckthorn,
Yep.
there's nothing growing.
There's no native forbs,
Nothing.
plants,
It's
anything
just-
underneath.
It's just a dead zone.
Yep.
When it comes to anything under buckthorn.
Yep.
And it's because they're producing shade and drawing the nutrients.
Correct.
Right? Pretty
Correct. Yep.
much. Okay. We'll continue on.
Nice.
Okay. All right, Josh, let's just take a little stroll here slowly and just point out what you think is important here and just show that these trees can take over.
So the first thing I see right here are a couple young white pine that have naturally seeded in. Nice, beautiful, young-looking seedling, and here you have, the buckthorn growing right over on top of it. That's a prime example. Another one there.
Chances are they would affect these trees, right?
Correct. And the thing is, with white pine, they are shade tolerant, so they can handle some of it, but it's never going to allow them to actually get up into the crown where they need to get full sun.
And as these are growing, that's going to be growing.
Correct.
And it's
full of berries.
More shade and
Full of berries.
already. So it's giving off a lot of berries.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, then we got it growing over the trail here on both sides. You can't go anywhere without seeing buckthorn. We're walking right through it here.
Yep.
This is all buckthorn all the way along here. I thought this was a neat area to show because this is not the thickest area we have, but it's thick.
Yes.
And this stuff here, it's just the berries on the end. There's berries all over there.
Yep.
On the top. Now there's a 10-foot tree, and as you keep going, you look underneath, and there's dead trees that have fallen, but there's nothing else growing. There's no other species under there at all. And this will give off, in another 10 years, a lot of shade. And so, as we walk through, we got a lot of species of trees. We've got birch here coming up. And that's not going to last long. That's an old tree.
Yep.
So as these mature trees fall and die, this is basically all we're going to have here.
Correct. As we sit here today.
Unless something is done.
Correct.
But we'll get into that.
Yes.
What can you do about an area like this? I mean, it's just...
So it's a lot of work to take on at once. So you always prioritize anytime you have this amount of work ahead of you. And I always tell folks to start with the berry producers. As I mentioned earlier, those berries are good for up to 5 years. And so that is where I would start with this project immediately. So just doing cut stump and basal bark treatments, that kind of stuff.
And we'll talk about the cut stump thing.
Correct.
So if a person was to come through here and take any tree, well, that has berries, there's one, and just with a chainsaw, just keep cutting them down, right?
Yep.
Letting them lay?
Yes. Yep. Once again, you don't want to move it off site.
No, because then you're moving the reproducers, right?
Yep.
But if you leave them lay, things will die within 4 or 5 years as far as the reproduction of those berries? Or
Correct. Yep. Those berries will still be in the soil available for germination.
right there in that area there. But they won't be spreading.
Correct. And one thing to note is that you're going to have to do some follow-up treatment to get the tree to die. And you also want to do that cut stump treatment in the summer once those trees are mostly done their growing for the year.
Now, cut stump means like we're going to put a bag over them or a chemical of some sort. Okay,
Correct.
so we'll talk about the bag and the chemical.
Yep.
But a person could spend a week out here with a chainsaw all day long.
Yep.
There's so many here. Which, you know, if you want to save the forest, that's what's a week or two of work.
And a lot of the work is on the front end. So the more hard work you do on the front end, the easier it's going to be on the back end. Once you get these bigger trees out of here, then you're just back to where we started the discussion, just hand pulling the sprouts. And that at that point it's not a ton of labor. It just, you know, is time consuming as far as getting out in your property and making sure you're
pulling 50,000 roots out.
Yes,
okay.
That's could take time.
Okay. As we move up here, we're in an area about halfway through our little trek here, and we just wanted to show you the volume of buckthorn as you pan through the woods here. As far as you can see through there, it almost blocks everything. That's why it's a shade tree. Absolutely amazing how this stuff takes over.
So we're on the part of Tom's property that we feel is the most inundated with buckthorn here. After taking a couple plots and counting trees, we figured there's about 10,000 stems per acre. You can clearly see all the green here spread out evenly throughout the area. A lot of young plants. You know, that 10,000 stems per acre is mostly young plants, but there certainly are some mature species here as well.
Okay, we're going to show you some examples here on the ground level, ground floor here, of some smaller immature trees that probably a year or two old. They're being affected by the buckthorn. We got some white pine that Josh is going to show you here, and there's also oak seedlings around here too. But why don't you point that out to show that these aren't going to survive?
So yeah, we figured this is about a 2-year-old white pine seedling here. In front of it we have a 1-year-old. You can just see buckthorn inundated, all sides, on top. So this is really what I mentioned earlier. My biggest concern is we're losing any opportunity to naturally regenerate our forest here in Itasca County. So this would be a really good real life example of why we need to remove this buckthorn, allow this white pine to receive full sun and get it growing up into the canopy.
Excellent example, and that without the buckthorn, that'd be a beautiful tree within 20 years. You know.
Yep.
And this is going to be dead because of this baby, or this one, or the 50,000 other ones around here, and this one. Okay, we have arrived on this property, and we've looked at a lot of trees on the property that are large, but we found this to be probably the largest and that has the biggest circumference of any buckthorn we've found. And we figured, I don't know, we're guesstimating 30 to 35 feet tall. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this down, and then we're going to take a look and see if the rings are available to count. They may not be right now. It might take a little longer than that. I don't know what the rings look like on here.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But it is the biggest buckthorn you've ever seen, and you're in the business.
Yeah, I
for many years.
8 inches in diameter there on the low end. That's a huge buckthorn.
Yes. Okay, and then, Josh, tell what else we're going to do.
So the main point here is that, Tom has decided that he's going to take some action, try to attack this. And so you have some options when it comes to buckthorn removal, Tom. With these bigger ones, as we mentioned earlier, the cut stump treatment. So it could be as easy as using a smaller saw like this. Obviously with a tree like this, we're going to use the chainsaw. But once the tree is on the ground, there's a couple options to kill it. Once again, if you cut it, it's not going to die. You have to do a follow-up treatment. So there's two options. This is just like a bingo dauber, and it's filled with a chemical called trichophor. And we'll utilize that. Once again, we're doing this late summer, so like August, September, into the fall. Once we cut this, we will just treat the stump with the bingo dauber. And it's not a bad idea to throw some dye in here as well, just so you know which trees have been treated. There's a whole lot of folks out there like Tom that don't want to utilize chemicals for whatever reason. You can buy trichophor in various brand names. So the thing to know about chemicals is there's an active ingredient. So trichophor is the active ingredient, and then there's going to be all sorts of brand names associated with that.
But trichophor is
chemical.
what you want to look at.
Correct.
In the...
Yep. So the other option that we've been looking at recently for folks that don't want to utilize chemicals is we could just use a garbage bag, a black bag. Even a coffee can would work, probably not on this tree, but on a smaller tree it would. And what we're doing is just cutting the sun off. And that sun, as soon as it hits the stump after it's been cut, it just really stimulates the tree to get leaves going again. And when you cut the sun off, you're basically just killing it over time. Yeah. So we have that, and then we also have a rope to tie it up, make sure it holds on there.
Okay, what we're going to do is we have a cutting assistant with us, and he's going to be doing the cutting. We're going to cut this tree down and then show you the inside and the girth and the rings, and and then we'll cover it with the bag. Yes. So Mr. Dave Rorick is going to assist us on this. Here we are, got her cut down. Now we got a stump here that Dave cut. It's pretty easy to see the rings. And so Josh is gonna kind of count them for us and get within an estimate of the age of this tree.
I think we can do about within 5 years.
Okay. So he's just counting the rings. Some rings are bigger than others. Depends on the nutrition for that year and the rain. But this is something you might want to do on your yard if you got a tree you cut down. See how old it is.
Around 37.
37 years old.
I would say in between 35 and 40 years old.
Now for a typical tree of any species, most species, is this about the right size they get at 37? It's a little smaller, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
white pine would be
the height. Yep.
A little bit bigger.
But it certainly has the width.
Yes.
That's
the diameter here.
Yep.
Okay. So, and you can see the roots.
Yep.
The roots are 2 inches in diameter, and they just continue. I mean, I don't know how far this one would go, but it just takes over. There's nothing else here growing.
We pulled some today where the root system is as tall as the tree.
Yes,
so even
6
these
feet
small
high.
ones,
Yeah.
we're seeing roots that are 3 to 4.
So this one should come right out of there. It should.
Plus,
It's connected. Yeah, it's connected to that. So interesting. All right, we're bagging the tree here, just like we talked about earlier. And the purpose of this is, Josh?
we're basically cutting all the sun out, and that is, with the thought, hopefully, that it's going to, not allow the tree to resprout. So this would be more of a natural way to treat it, you know, versus the other alternative, which would be to utilize a chemical.
Very good. Now, if you've got a lot of trees, this would be a lot of work.
Correct.
But in Grand Rapids, there's a lot of smaller lots, isn't there, Josh? It has not that many large trees that they could easily do this.
Yes. Yep, this is by far the worst infestation I've seen. You know, most of the time you're seeing a handful of these smaller stems.
Yes.
And then once again, maybe some mature trees here and there. But I have not seen any this bad.
Wow.
So yeah, now we got it bagged. I'm going
Beautiful.
to keep in touch with Tom to try to figure out how this works. I've never done it myself, but I've heard it from other landowners.
And also you could have put a liquid on there too.
Correct.
Okay.
The
And the name of the liquid again is?
So there's a couple different options. Tricopur is the main chemical brand, or excuse me, chemical name. Multiple brand names associated with that, and then there's also glyphosate, which is
heard that.
Roundup basically. And,
Yep. We'll go on one more time. We're going to go over to the neighbor's place here and just take a look at what he's got there.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're over in the neighbor's yard. It just continues with our yard, and this is actually probably the worst infestation I've seen. We don't have anything compared to this in the other yard. I thought we saw it all over there. We even found a tree that's larger than one we cut down, probably almost 10 inches in diameter. It's just right back here, and I guess we're just going to have you kind of pan this area just to show what's here. It looks green, but it's right up against his lawn, and he's not the only one in town that's got this situation, I'm sure, because I think a lot of people don't know what they have here.
Correct. Yep.
And they just think it's a plant that's a plant. But you look at the oak trees, and this is a maple, these will not survive. I mean, when they die, they won't reproduce, not with the buckthorn here. So this is an example of a buckthorn just about taking over everything.
Correct. Yep.
Here, knocking off all the trees. So you can see how far along that is. That must be about 50 feet at least. And then it goes back another 50 feet, so it's a square. And you can see the buckthorn, the big ones, up above, the higher areas above the median trees there. That's all buckthorn, all the green up in there. What do you think, Josh? Anything else?
I think the major take-home point here is you tied in with your neighbor, kind of gave them a heads up on the situation. This problem will never be solved in town without neighbors working with each other. Some folks just don't understand what a buckthorn is, what it looks like. So it really takes a community effort to curb this issue that we have in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and I guess that's what this show's all about.
Yep.
Get the information out and let people look at it, and hopefully the neighbors will tell other neighbors, and people will tell other people that don't even have buckthorn. Hey, it was a good show on buckthorn here. Didn't realize this. I think we covered almost every item I can think of that informs people about this particular plant that is one big, bad, invasive species, especially in the Grand Rapids area. So I thank you, Josh, for your expertise from the DNR coming over here and spreading the word on this and helping me spread the word, because you're the expert on this. And I think that once you watch this show, you're going to know a lot more, and you can spread the word to your neighbors and other people, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much, and remember, stay informed.